Hey everybody, it's Sharyn Sheldon here from Content Sparks, and welcome to today's live training called How to Use ChatGPT to Customize Your PLR course. And PLR is private label rights or white label or brandable, ready to go, whatever term you like to use. And I'm going to be doing a lot of live examples today to show you exactly how you can use it, particularly with our new course that we just released on local marketing. So stay tuned, stay with me as I go back and forth from my slides to my screen and drop in any questions as we go into the comments. If you're watching this on Facebook, you may need to give permission to StreamYard to show your name. Otherwise, I just see Facebook user. So I don't know who's talking. So for instance, somebody just posted, "Good afternoon, Sharyn." Hello. And the way you do that is you'll see there should be a note when you're on Facebook, but otherwise look for streamyard.com/Facebook, give permission, and come back again. All right, because I do like to see your name if I can. All right, so I'm not going to waste any more time because there's a lot to cover, and I'll just hop straight over to my screen. And you can see this is the first slide. This is what we're talking about today, how to use ChatGPT to make your PLR course unique. I'm going to be talking about exactly how to leverage AI, particularly ChatGPT, to speed up the process. And most of the AI chats work about the same, and that you'll get better quality output than doing it on your own. I know there's a lot of debate there. The output can be really generic, but if you do it the right way, you'll actually get better quality output. And again, I'm going to be using a lot of the materials as for the demo from our new course called Fast Track Your Local Marketing Strategy. I'm not going to go into detail on that today because there's a nice long video on the page. I gave you a little intro on there, and there are details about it. And then I did a whole long video here that walks through the whole course, lots of tips in there, information about the add-on packages that you see when you add the course to your cart, which is a whole lead magnet funnel. So I've done this a little bit differently this time. Rather than having everything in one package, we've created options so you can get the main course with instructor materials and sales page copy, and then you can get your own lead magnet funnel. And we did something different for the upgrade pack, which is quizzes and group activities. So lots of information, as I said, on the sales page. I'm not going to go into tons of detail here. So let's go straight back to my slides and let's get going. All right. I'll look out for your questions as well. So let us first, here's what I'm going to be talking about today. Top ways to use ChatGPT to customize your courses, the mindset that you need to have to be successful, get successful output from your AI chat. And like I said, we're using ChatGPT, a beginner-friendly prompting framework, and I'll explain what that means when I get to that, and lots of practical examples and tips, as well as some next level ideas, other ways that you can use it. And at the end, if you stay tuned, I will show you the launch bonuses, the early bird bonuses that are just available when you get the local marketing course in the next few days. And those are really interesting, exciting. So you're going to want to take a look at those. I don't have those showing at an inside peek on the sales page, so you want to stay tuned for that. And there's so much else I'm going to be talking about that you're going to want to stay tuned anyway. So the best use cases for AI for customizing your courses are ideas. So that's one of the absolute best ways, just getting your brain going, sparking new ideas for ways to change it or things to add. Examples, this is one of my favorite ways to use it, is when there's an example there that doesn't actually resonate with your audience, because we keep it generic to make it customizable. You can use ChatGPT to get ideas for different examples for your audience, and I'll show you how. suggested revisions. So if there's certain sections that you don't really like the way it's explained, or you think maybe you want to add something to it, you can ask ChatGPT for ideas, suggestions, and then take what you want from there. Changing the style, tone, or audience, prime way that you can use it. Give it a piece of text and say, rewrite it in your style, and I'll show you some tips for that. And the expanding and clarifying, so getting it to clarify a concept. For example, explaining to a different type of audience in a different way. And I'll show you that example too. So this is going to speed up everything and give you more ideas than if you were just doing it on your own. So the essentials, just backing up for a second, that you need to know about using any type of AI chat. I've just listed out the few. You don't need to know everything about how it works. That you're not, unless you're a developer who's working on AI interfaces and special tools, you don't need to need all of that. What you need to know is that it is a conversational tool. There are various models of AI, like machine learning and stuff, but this is conversational, what they call natural language processing. And GPT, when it comes to the ChatGPT, that's just one model that comes from OpenAI. There are some others from Anthropic called Claude that you may have heard of. There's Google's Bard that I'm sure you've heard of. And there's more coming out all the time, but they all tend to be built on the same type of technology. And that learns from previous conversations. So it has existing data, it's pre-trained on all this existing data, and then it learns from previous conversations of yours and others. So that's why when you're using any of these, you have to be very careful not to share any private information, because unless you have some settings turned off, or you're using a private API of some sort, it could use that for other people's conversations, other people's chats. Now, this isn't about plagiarism. I know a lot of people are afraid that their content is going to get plagiarized, or they're going to get stuff that's copied. That's not the way it works. What it does is it looks at existing data, and then it predicts new words. It analyzes it and predicts. So it's not copying, but things might sound the same. So hopefully that's not too techy, but basically you have to remember not to put private information in. Every time you ask a question, it will create a different answer, even with the exact same question or prompt. That's because it's generating stuff and predicting. And that can be a little frustrating actually at times, especially when you're doing something like an image, or you want to keep what was written before. It just doesn't do that. And you'll see when I show you examples. The other problem with it predicting is that it will hallucinate. If you haven't heard that word before, what that means is it will make things up. It wants to create an answer for you, and it will just pull in various things from existing data and make something up. So it's not accurate, even when it's accessing the web. So you could try it out with asking it to look up something on the web for research, but you have to check absolutely everything, because the URL may not be right. It may be summarizing something that doesn't even exist. You could even give it a page to summarize, and it could summarize it wrong. Now that will likely get better over time, but the nature of the technology itself, the fact that it's predicting and generating, leaves that accuracy part a problem that they're still working on improving. And it's only as good as what you tell it. So that's why we're going to be focusing a lot on the prompts today, because it's garbage in, garbage out. How you structure your prompts, what you ask it, is going to determine what you get. All right, so those are the essentials that you need to remember as we're going into that. And this all affects your mindset as well, how you should be thinking about using it when you're creating any content. We're going to focus on customizing courses today, but if you're creating other content as well, you need to remember these. It is an assistant, a tool. It's not a replacement for you. And some of the things I just talked about on the essentials of ChatGPT and other those chat AIs really reinforce that it can't read your mind. It's only as good as what you tell it. It's not inherently creative because it's basing it off of existing data and previous conversations. And because of all of that, you have to remember that you're the expert. You're the judge of what to use, what's good, what isn't good. You're the jury who decides whether you're going to use that particular piece and edit it or not. So again, it's an assistant, not a replacement for you. It's a tool. And this is something I like to tell people to remember, is that you need to keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road when you're using any kind of AI tool, because it can go off in a different direction than what you wanted. If you don't keep your goal in mind and who your audience is, you could end up in another country entirely. This is an image I actually generated through ChatGPT, which uses this Dolly, if you haven't heard of that image generation tool that's built into ChatGPT. And you can see no matter how many times I told it to put the driver on the other side and to swap, I told it wanted a woman and a robot. I gave it some different details. It kept swapping them. So I ended up in the UK, I guess. What can I say? Driving on the wrong side of the road. So, and her seatbelt is actually strange too. And the first time I did this, she only had 4 fingers. Anyway, what I'm saying is it's not going to be accurate, and images is something I have the hardest time with. So keep your hands on the wheel, eyes on the road as you're using it. Don't get lazy and start daydreaming and letting it do its own thing and using stuff as is, or you're going to have a disaster on your hands. All right, prompting. Let's go straight into prompting. These are the keys, the key information you always want to give your ChatGPT or other AI chats. It'll apply to them as well to get the best output. This is kind of your basic framework for a beginner. And those elements are the task. That's exactly what you want it to do. That's the starting point. The context, so who it's for, why you're creating this, your target audience, who you are. When I say who, it's, are you a local marketing expert? Are you a business, a social media consultant, things like that, and who your target audience is and why you need that task done. Some guidelines, any kind of specific guidelines like the style and tone you want, the format, like in a table, do's and don'ts, so things you want to make sure it includes or make sure it excludes. Giving it an example is going to help a lot as well. So giving an example of the format you want, the flow you want, a page you want to follow as a style. And then any text you want it to work with, so that when it comes to customizing, if you have sections that you want to get ideas for rewriting, then that's going to be obviously essential to give it. So that's the basic framework. One thing to note is if you're using one of the AI chat tools that has its own interface, there are a lot of these other paid ones. I can't think of them off. There's new ones every single day. I can't think of any offhand, but they often are much more rigid about what information you have to put in. So it can be nice to have that guide, but it will be more restrictive as well. That's why I happen to like using ChatGPT, but you use whatever you're most comfortable with. Also, if you're not sure what information to give it, you can ask. So you can give it the task and say, okay, what information do you need from me in order to complete this task? So that's a great way if you're just not sure, but you'll get more comfortable, more confident the more you do it. The other key, other than that prompting framework, is your follow-up prompts. So I find that giving it feedback is going to help every further response that you get in your chat. So what did you like about the response? What did you not like? How should it adjust the content that it put out? What should it do next? It's like working with any assistant who needs a lot of guidance. You need to tell it, give that feedback of what was good, what wasn't, what it needs to do. So always keep that kind of mindset. Remember, it's an assistant. It needs your directions, very detailed directions. So here's just one example before I go into specific ones on customizing the course that shows that framework. So in this case, I'm having it create something new just so you can see from scratch. So you could say, I want 10 social media posts for my course on whatever the course topic is. The context is I want it to drive traffic to my sales page, my audience, local business service providers interested in my course because they're struggling to attract and convert leads, give it some guidelines. I want a mix of tips and questions to entice clicks, use a casual and friendly tone, include emojis and hashtags, don't use these certain words, revolutionize, equip, empower, elevate, unlock. You're going to see lots of different ones that you just don't want it to use. And then I gave an example of a formula it should follow: question plus hashtag plus link, or tip or question. So let's hop over to my ChatGPT where I set this all up. I did all this yesterday. Whoops, let's go back up to the top. All right. All right, so I did this all yesterday so that it's all set up and we don't have to wait for generating any issues. So here's the prompt that I just showed you: create 10 social media posts for my course on how to fast track your local marketing strategy to drive traffic to my course page, et cetera, et cetera. These are my ideal students. These are my guides. These are all the things I just said. And then ChatGPT came back and said, absolutely, Sharyn, I'll show you custom instructions later that show how you can get it to respond in a certain way. So it said, I'll create these. They're designed to do X, Y, Z. I have in my custom instructions telling it to confirm with me and give an outline. And it gave an outline of what it's going to do. And then it actually did the first 5 because I've told it in my custom instructions to only do part at a time to make sure it's on track. So these are the first 5. I go through, see what I like, don't like, and I gave it more feedback. I said, those are great. However, only include one emoji in each post aside from the arrow emoji that points to the course link. So you see how I responded and gave it feedback, very, very specific feedback, telling it, keep the arrow, don't do this, do that. So it went ahead and changed it. I liked those 5 and I said, okay, you can continue. So it's like a coaching session again with an assistant. You're telling it what you like, don't like, how to proceed. Now, just going back a sec to those custom instructions, I will show you that briefly. In the bottom left, and I believe this is on the paid and the free plans, you can click on custom instructions, and then you can give it specifics, for instance, on how to answer. So I'll show you the audience stuff in a minute when I go through that. But you can see that I gave it instructions for longer requests and additional preferences. So for extensive answers, first provide an outline, then deliver content in sections, checking in for feedback after each. I find this is really helpful, especially when you have a long chat. You want to make sure it's on track as you're customizing content and getting ideas. Confirm understanding before tackling longer requests. If ever in doubt, ask for clarity. Feel free to give suggestions or opinions. Address me as Sharyn. So that's helpful. You know, you'll try what you like. So let's go back now to my slides. So now you've seen the examples of a basic framework. Let's now look at some other tips. I showed you that custom instructions, the giving initial instructions with the context, doing one at a time, telling it to check with you after each part of the task. So the way I think of it, as I mentioned before, is think of it as working with an intern who isn't familiar with your business and needs very detailed directions. This isn't a person. They're not going to get upset if you give feedback. It will just keep on going. So don't worry about offending it, though it's good practice to always give feedback in a nice way, even if it's not a person. So those were the custom instructions that I just showed you, how I got it set up so it will always do that. That was in here in the custom instructions, and it's in the section on how would you like ChatGPT to respond. All right, so you can give it instructions for that. All right. Now, prerequisites to give when you start customizing your content. You always want to tell it your audience. Make sure as part of that you identify common challenges related to the topic, so you'll get the best output that way. And make sure you establish your style, tone, and guidelines. Those are also all things that you can put into those custom instructions, so that it's always looking at, always giving you output that ties into your audience and your style and tone. If you have different audiences, you will then have to give it different directions on that specific chat. But if you're keeping everything in one chat, you won't have that issue. So let's look at an audience prompt example. I wasn't going to cover this today, but it's so important that I want to make sure you know how to do this if you don't already have a good audience example or audience description, and also the style and tone. So if you don't have this, you can use a very simple prompt or a more detailed one to get that description that you need for ChatGPT. So in this case, I said, create 3 target audience profiles for independent life coaches in Denver, including gender, age range, specialty, key challenges, and goals. So you could do that all in one sentence. And you have to know what business you're in, of course, but you can at least get a starting point this way. Or you can give it even more detail and say, I'm a local marketing consultant for independent life coaches in the Denver, Colorado area. Create 3 possible target audience profiles that include the following, and give it very specific what you want, including the format at the end. Format it in a table with the first column as the category, the second with the corresponding description. So let's go look at what that did over in my demo. So here I kept it going as a chat. So I got those first social media posts and I said, those are great. Okay, I gave that for the social media posts. Now I want to start customizing my course to a specific target audience. So I'm continuing the chat so it knows where it is. First, let's clearly define the audience. And then there's that short prompt, create 3 target audience profiles for independent life coaches, yada, yada. And it goes through and it created 3 based on the things I just told it. One was aspiring life coach. So it gave each one a name, which is really helpful too, that I didn't actually think of, and gave some basics. But then I said, okay, let's try and do that more detailed prompt. So I said, that's a good start, but I'd like to add a bit more. Follow these directions. And now I've pasted in that other one that I showed you. I'm a local marketing consultant, etc. And I wanted it format in that table. So here's what it put out. It has the table, it has the categories, it has different names for each one of those profiles. So that's interesting. I said it's not going to do the same each time. And it'll have differences in challenges and goals as well. So now how do I use that for ChatGPT, for my chat? Do a follow-up. I said, let's focus on profile 1 and call her the aspiring coach. So if I go back again to here, you can see the follow-up idea is to tell it which one, give it a name, and then ask it to format it so that you can include it in your custom instructions for the future. So you could use ChatGPT that way to ask it what exactly it needs or how to format something. And if I go over, so here I've asked it that. I actually picked profile 1. I picked the name from the previous. That's why it's nice to ask things more than once also, because you'll get different ideas each time. So I liked the title, Aspiring Life Coach, but I liked the details in the second one. So I said, use that and format those details in a way that I can include in my custom instructions. Now, you will probably not want to use this as is, in which case you would say, okay, let's take profile 1, call it the Aspiring Life Coach, but use these details and tell it exactly what you want, what that profile is, their target audience, and then ask it to format it. So here it's gone and put it into a format that I could just copy and paste into my custom instructions. And you can see what that looks like here. So here I actually have some background about me. They'll give you some thought starters too. And then I have my audience, but you could just paste in some of the details about your audience. And then I'll show you how to do that style tone preference as well. Let's go back over and I'll do that. So we got the follow-up. Now we want to get that style tone prompt example. So if you don't already know this, which you may not if you haven't done this exercise before, you can use some of your existing content and get ChatGPT to create a style guide that you can then put into those custom instructions and have it refer to every time it's, say, revising content for you. You just want a paragraph rewritten, you want to create something new, you can have it done in that style. So I did that right here. Oops. So I went in and I said, create a personal style guide that I can use for future custom instructions in ChatGPT based on the following blog posts. So I took a very long blog post. It's actually a pillar post or pillar page. It has a ton of content that I've written. If you don't have a lot of long things, you can give it more links. But because ChatGPT, or at least ChatGPT 4, the free one may get this in the future, because it can search via Bing online, it can look at links. So you, rather than having to upload, paste in a whole bunch of content that other people may be able to look at, you can just give it a link to one of your blog posts or some other content. And it will look at it, and I said include voice, style, tone, humor, sentence structure, perspective, and any other details you would need for a written style guide. So it went ahead and it analyzed that page using Bing, and it created this great personal style guide that I never would have been able to do on my own. You know, how does it translate the way I write? And it said voice style, expert yet approachable, demonstrate expertise with a conversational, approachable tone, instructive and supportive, tone, professional and confident, empathetic and understanding, and it described each one. Humor, which I don't use a lot of, subtle and engaging, light humor that's relevant and adds value without overshadowing the educational aspect. I mean, this is great. This is the way I write. So this was terrific. First person, because I said perspective. I don't like having things that say we, it's I, it's you, particularly you. Content focus and additional elements. So this was really helpful. It's a little long to put in the custom instructions, so I'm going to edit it, shorten it up to put in, but it's actually better than what I currently have in my custom instructions. So in here, you'll see style tone preference. I have some of that, but I need to add some of the more detail that I just got from ChatGPT. There's a limit here. It says 1294 out of 1500 characters. So I don't have a lot of characters left in my custom instructions. I'm going to have to make that more concise. All right. So let's now continue and start really customizing the content. So the first thing you're going to want to do is identify what to edit in your course. So the main things that you want to edit when you're customizing your course is title, subtitle, and examples. That's number one. Then you can also expand on key sections. That's what I have written here. So that's not necessary, but it's something you're going to want to look out for if there's certain areas you want to expand. And you could also create add-on resources, add additional resources to customize. I'm not going to really focus on that because we're talking more about customizing what already exists, but I'll show you a couple options there. One key here is do not upload the course book. You do have the option with GPT-4 to upload files. Try to avoid that as much as possible because, again, unless you have some settings change where everything's private and you're not saving all your chats, that becomes content that OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, use to continue training ChatGPT. So you don't want that up there. That just take the sections that you want to edit and use those, or just ask it to give ideas. So let's see what that looks like in practice. So first, before you actually get started, to make it effective, make a copy of the original document. Don't start working in one document. When you purchase something like our local marketing course or any of the others, you get a whole bunch of documents that you download. The course book is in Word, the slideshows are in PowerPoint. You want to always make a copy of that. Then you'll be able to start searching through and going one by one as you customize to see what you want to change. So keep note of that. And it's important to go through the whole course anyway so that you know what's in it. So this is not extra work. You should never be taking a course and just teaching it without actually knowing what's in there. It's best to do it in one chat. So that's the benefit of saving your chats. The downside is if you do turn off settings where you don't save the chats, then you may have to start over. So try and just block out one session. You can go back to it if you save your chats the next day or the next day after or a week later, and the information will be there. But if you can sit down and do as much as possible in one sitting, it'll not only keep things in your mind, but it'll all be there. You don't risk losing anything in your chat. You can save the chat as well. So do it in one so it remembers everything it's been told. Copy and paste the best ideas into a Google Doc. So you're not going to be editing directly, copying and pasting from ChatGPT to your course. You put them into a Google Doc and then you have them there to refer to as you edit. So then use the ideas to edit afterwards. Remember, do not use the output as is. All right, you want it to sound like you, and it won't sound like you immediately, no matter how much direction you give it. You are still going to need to edit it. And if you remember earlier, I pointed out in one of the prompts some things to avoid, words that I know I don't like using. Look out for those patterns in any text output that you don't like. You may find things that you used to use in the past, certain phrases that now are showing up all the time, so you may not want to use them anymore or not as often. There's certain words I don't like. I don't like that it uses ing words, passive words, in a lot of the titles, like defining, customizing, creating. I like to use active verbs: create, define, list, boost, things like that. It always likes to say transformative or transformation or revolutionize or game changer or golden ticket or gold mine, things like that. It just uses all the time and it drives me crazy. Or uses certain sentence patterns like, it's not just this, it's that, and with semicolons. So you'll see what you don't like as well. If it doesn't sound like you, it's not something you would normally use, then it's something you're going to want to edit. Don't use it as is. All right, so let's start with the course title and subtitle. That is One of the easiest places to start, and it's something you should always be doing, and it's a prime way to get ideas using ChatGPT. You want a title that's going to capture the attention and resonate with your audience. So you should never use the one that's on any customizable course, any PLR brandable course that you get. But it's easy to get ideas from ChatGPT. So here's an example of a prompt you can use. Provide 10 ideas for new titles and subtitles for the course. Now, we've already mentioned what the course was. Reflecting my style and audience. Keep titles within 7 words. Emphasize the biggest benefit of the course and the subtitle. Use this current title and subtitle as an example. Now, you remember in the prompting framework, I said it's task, context, guidelines, and examples, and then the text to work with. So this basically has it in one concise sentence. But if you have a longer chat, you can, or if you're just kicking off the chat, you can do what I showed you before and give the initial context. Like this: I'm a local marketing expert who helps new life coaches in my area to find more leads and clients. I have a private label rights course on creating a local marketing strategy, and I need help making it more unique to my voice and audience. So this is like for a longer chat, you're going to be customizing the course. You can kick it off that way. I will ask you to help me on various parts one at a time. Check with me after each set of instructions to confirm you are on the right track. So again, like working with an assistant or an intern, give it the initial context, mindset, frame, and then give it the first task. So first, provide 10 ideas for new titles and subtitles. And I gave it all the specifics. Look at my custom instructions, refer to my target audience and the title, things like that. So let's look at ChatGPT and see what that looked like. So now, because this is all in one chat, I'm able to continue the conversation versus kicking off with that long context that I just showed you. But I'll give you both to show you how it responded. So I said, let's start customizing my course now, because I said earlier that we're going to do that. And then there's that prompt: provide 10 ideas, etc. Use this current one as an example. I even misspelled the title, but it doesn't matter because it's using it for an example anyway. But there it can see an example of the type of thing I like and the format to use with title and subtitle. So it gave 10 ideas. They're all pretty blah. I'm not really happy with any of them. Hometown marketing heroes. I mean, come on. Small town, big business. That doesn't tell me it's about local marketing. None of these really work. So I'm going to need to give it more specifics. So I said, okay, let's start over again with more instructions for you, because I wanted to show you what the longer prompt will do. So here's the background again. I'm a local marketing expert, etc. Provide 10 ideas. And I gave all that same information and details. And this time it was a little bit better, but because I had specified that I'm in the Denver area and I wanted it to reflect my audience, it kept putting Denver into everything, or in all of them in the titles. So none of these really work, because also I may not always use it for that area. The course could be for other areas, but something like, and it doesn't talk about life coaching, which is the target audience. So I want to make sure, more importantly, that I get the target audience in the title. So again, you have to know what you're looking for and the type of thing, what's good, what isn't. Remember, I told you you're the expert, the judge and jury. You're the one giving it the directions. This just shows an example of how you have to give it specific directions of what's good and what isn't. What is a good title? So this time I gave it more feedback, said, let's not refer to Denver. Instead, make sure the title resonates with new life coaches who want to attract new leads and clients with a personalized local marketing strategy. So I was much more specific about who the course is targeted to and who my audience is. And now we got much better examples. So Life Coach Marketing Foundation, Coaching Biz Local Leverage, not great, but you can skim through. If you don't like these, you can ask for more. But what I always do is then combine, pull in, look for ideas of what I liked and didn't like. And always keep a copy of the ones you like in that separate Word doc. If you remember earlier on, I said, copy the good ideas, the things that you want to draw from, into a Word document. So, for instance, I started a Word document called Ideas for Local Marketing Edits. And I copied over the custom instructions that it had given me that were good and the style guides that I have that in the future. And then I put in the title idea that I liked. And what that was is a combination of these, where I pulled together some different ideas that I liked and created a title. And I told it what the title is so that it knows for any other content that I'm going to do and what I liked. So I said, I'll use a combination of ideas with this title and subtitle. Title, Local Marketing for New Life Coaches. Subtitle, Cultivate a Steady Stream of Clients with a Personalized Strategy. To me, that covered what I wanted to cover to my target audience, and it's different from the rest of the course. So it can be a little obsequious at times. It says, that's a great choice, Sharyn. Thank you. It likes to give you a little praise. It's fine. I'm happy to get that. But it said, if there's anything else you need, such as further customization or the next step in the process, feel free to let me know. Because I just gave it feedback. I didn't give it another task, but it will continue. So now let's go to the next thing to change. And the next section I mentioned was to add or adjust examples. And this is also going to be really key to making your course resonate with your audience. Because with any PLR or brandable course, the examples are always going to be a little more generic, or they're going to cover a variety of different types of businesses, because we have a variety of customers who work with different audiences. You may have a much more specific one. Hopefully you do. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The first is you're going to want to find examples that you want to change in your material. You can search for them in the course book or the slides. So those are the main areas. If you're doing a minimum viable course, what I call, the bare minimum of materials, then you're just going to look at the slides and don't worry about the course book, because you can deliver a minimum course with just the slideshow and your worksheets and leave it at that, and just use your own examples and insights for that. Then you'll select any ones you definitely want to replace, use ChatGPT prompting for fresh ideas, and then make sure every example speaks directly to your audience. So here's an example prompt of how you could do that. So I said, provide a new example of, and whatever the topic is that will resonate with my audience of, and your target audience, using the same format as this current example. And you take the example from the course book or slide. So I will show you that now. So say I'm in the Word document. I can go into Find, right? And then in the navigation, put in just the word example. Can you hear the wind outside? It's really windy here. Wow. So I put an example, and it pulls up everywhere in the document where there's the word example. So you can just easily skim through here and find ones. For instance, here, local customer avatar. That's a perfect place that you would want to customize and create your own example. So here's one, a family-friendly restaurant. So that's a small one that you might want to change, but let's see if there's a bigger one. Craft bakery. So that's one I could do. There was another one I saw. Let's go back. So there's a few different ones here with local. Oh, these are UVPs, customer avatar. Identify your competitors. There was somewhere in here. Let me just view 2 pages at a time. That's going to be a lot easier me to find the one. So here's the way the examples are laid out. You can see it much more easily here. So these are examples of different ideal customer avatars. And you can see it's got all these details. You want ChatGPT to do it in the same format, so everything flows and it covers the same areas as the course is discussing. So if I go back over to my demo, you'll see I'm using that same prompt. I want to adjust some examples in my student guide, provide a new example of a good local customer avatar that will resonate with my audience of new life coaches using the same format as this current example. And then I pasted in that example. I'm not going to paste in a whole big section, just that example. It said certainly, and it put one together that's for new life coaches who I said my audience is. And it looks pretty good. You might want to edit a bit. You'll copy and paste it over to your Word doc, to your Google Doc, different pain points, but one is not enough. So I said, okay, create another one, this time of an older woman in a different profession. Follow the same format and guidelines. So you don't have to repeat yourself each time, but you do need to give it guidance. So here it gave another one around life coaches, but with, remember, these are customer avatars for a life coach. So these are people they might be working with. So here's another example of someone a new life coach might be working with who's completely different. So you could do several of those. And that's how you can very quickly replace some of these examples like this with something without having to spend a lot of time. Otherwise, you'd have to go through and try and come up with all of this stuff out of thin air, which is going to take you a lot more time. So often what happens is people who are a little lazier or time crunched won't do this at all. They won't change that example. But with ChatGPT, you can make sure that your course really resonates with your audience, that you have examples without having to spend a lot of time coming up with those. So that's why I love it for this. And remember, I said you can do this in the slideshow as well. If you're just doing that minimum viable course, it has that same feature where you can click on find in the upper right. And it doesn't have the navigation pane like that, but it says find what, and then you just click find next, and it's going to start going through, and you do it slide by slide. So for instance, here's that customer avatar example. And because we put the content from the course book into the slide notes, you can actually grab it from in here and paste it in. So that's how it is with the slides. All right, let's keep going. The next section, now that I've shown you how to replace examples, is rewrite suggestions. I said you can get it to rewrite things, but my note here says don't let it off its leash. So just to say one more time, do not just copy and paste things that you get. Don't just let it generate a bunch of text and then you paste it in as your new text, because the output isn't necessarily accurate, doesn't necessarily speak like you do, may have some common phrases that you're going to see all over the internet now. You don't want that happening. You want it to be like you and make sure it's resonating with your audience. So keep your hands on the wheel. And there are a lot of different things you can use to get ideas for rewriting. I say rewrite, but it's ideas and suggestions. So you can identify sections that you feel need improvement, particularly things for more your style and tone. Maybe you want to add some more detail for clarity. You want to improve things. You want to explain it as if it's a different audience. So some of the explanations may not be something you think your audience would understand. Real world examples to add, metaphors and imagery, which can get a little out of hand. Also, it tends to use the same ones over and over. So experiment a little there, and I'll show you examples for that. So one would be rewriting a section in your own style. So you can say, please rewrite the following section in a conversational yet professional style, similar to my previous writings, or you can just refer it to your custom instructions. Focusing on new local life coaches as this target student of this course. and then paste in the small section that you want to rewrite. And what that looks like is, here I said, let's rewrite a few sections of the student guide, starting with this first one. And I used that prompt. And what I did here is I took from the introduction, because I feel like I've always noticed that the introduction is the place that will have the biggest impact in making sure it's in your voice, because a lot of the rest of the course is going to be more instructional. So it's the examples that will make the biggest difference, unless there are some concepts that are more complicated that you think your audience needs more explanation on. But the introduction has much more personal aspect to it. So in this course, let's go back to the introduction and get to the very beginning. So the introduction, you'll see, isn't long, but it's the background that starts getting people motivated and needs to resonate with your audience right away. So you can take that first section, go over to ChatGPT and paste it in, ask it to rewrite in your style for your audience, specify who it is, and it'll come back with something that you won't want to use right away. Because here it's used the word gold mine, which I can't stand. It's not really talking about the audience. It's still talking about whether you're the owner of a charming boutique or a trusted local service provider. It seems to have forgotten that I'm talking to local life coaches. So I had to give it some feedback. I said, please rewrite that again and avoid these words: gold mine, unlock, or unlocking. Also use I instead of we, so that I'm speaking to students directly. Now, if I'd referred it to the custom instructions where my style and tone guide is, it might not have made those mistakes. So here it rewrote it again, but again, it's still not really talking about my audience, not resonating with local life coaches, probably because I didn't remind it. So I said, rewrite it so it's targeted to my student audience of new life coaches. And now, finally, third go, it's starting to sound better. So I wouldn't copy and paste this in again, but I like some of the things that it did. So I would just go back over to my Google Doc and paste that in so that when I go back and actually do my edits, I can pull from that. You can do it as you go, but I like to have everything there so that I can do it in a separate session, get all my ideas, and then go back and do it. And then I'm ready to move on to another section. So I have some ideas. I can go ahead and rewrite that now or do it later. Another great thing that I mentioned is you can get it to explain as if that target reader is someone else. So say there's a section that you're sure that your audience is not going to understand, like the local SEO one, because it's just something they've never heard of before. You can ask it to rewrite the following section to explain the concept of, and whatever that more complicated concept is, as if I'm brand new to business and coaching, and then put that in. So that's, you could also ask it to expand on it. So this works really well also. And what I did is I took something from the course book where it was on SEO. And I'm going to just go back and show you, if I go into find local SEO, I can see exactly where that is. So I can find it in the course book. And I can flip through here, local SEO tactics, and here it is, the section. So I already know in advance that this is one I want to show you. And there's a description of what local search is about. So this is, like I said, something that you know your audience will be totally unfamiliar with and need a little bit further explanation or explained in a simpler way. So I went into ChatGPT and I said, that's great. Let's clarify another section so my students can understand it better. Please rewrite the following section without eliminating any key points. So this is another thing that you can add in, making sure that it doesn't lose anything, because it tends to just make things more concise or rewrite things, in a completely different way. And I pasted in that one section that I wanted done, and it came back and explained it differently in a much more simple way. Your future clients are out there searching online for services like yours. It's important to know exactly what they're looking for. Start by researching keywords related to life coaching in your area. A handy tool for this is Google's Keyword Planner. Focus on specific longer phrases. These are called long tail keywords. They're less common, making easier for your website to stand out. So you can see this is really straightforward. It's in my tone, very instructive, but also empathetic, and doing it in a simpler style, in a way that people who are brand new would not understand. Or would understand much better. So SEO, search engine optimization, is all about improving where your website appears in search results. Now, if we go back to the original, you'll see it's written a little bit differently. You can't really read this that well, but it says things like incorporate long tail keywords that are less competitive. Well, your people may not know what a long tail keyword is. So that's why it's nice that ChatGPT rewrote that bit. Now, don't go crazy. Don't go through and start changing absolutely everything, or you're never going to get this course out there. Just skim through and find the things that you feel that your audience is going to need a little bit more explanation on. And then you can use that. So next, I did give it a little bit more feedback. I just said I would take the INGs out. See, remember I mentioned before, I don't like that boosting and understanding. I would just change it to understand and boost. So I did tell it that. And then we're going to get to the next one, the next step, which is, all right, we did the explain as if. Now, real world scenarios. I really like this also. It's similar to the idea of the examples, but it's somewhere where you can be, instead of replacing an example, maybe adding on something extra. So in this case, I said, suggest real world scenarios of local life. It's supposed to be life coaches. I will edit that slide. Using local partnerships to generate leads for their personal development coaching business in the following categories. Now, I skimmed through the course. I saw there's a section on local partnerships. Thought to myself, well, my life coaches may not really understand what those could look like for them, because the examples in the course book, the scenarios aren't quite, they're more generic, more multi-purpose for different types of businesses. So let's look at that. I go back over to the course book. I'm going to put in the search for local partnerships so you can see. And there is forge strategic local partnerships and networks. So there are a bunch of different categories, and there are just some really short examples for each. So my local life coaches probably won't really get this unless I give them more scenarios. Yes, there are some examples for each of these, but it would help to have some more. So this is another way you're customizing, enhancing the course to fit your audience. So in ChatGPT, I went through and I said, now I want to help my new life coaches understand the potential of local partnerships. Suggest real-world scenarios of local life coaches using strategic local partnerships to generate leads for their personal development coaching business in the following categories from the student guide. And I pasted in those categories along with the examples, and I got some completely different ones that work much better for life coaches. So, and I had to give it more feedback. So it kept saying a life coach, a life coach, a life coach. Well, we know that the course book is being customized for them, so I don't need to have that repeated. So what I did is give it more feedback and said, since these are going into my student guide, you don't need to use the word life coach in each description. Just say something like, if you specialize in X, you could do Y, or similar types of phrasing. So again, I gave it an example, and I got much better results that way. And then I would go over, copy those, and paste them into my Google Doc, right? So I had explain as if and real world scenarios, paste them in, because I'm not going to copy and paste them into the document. I'm going to edit them. Even though they're good, you're going to want to edit to make sure that the wording is what you want and sounds like you. So that was real life scenarios. I think I have one more in there to show you. Spending more time. I hope you guys are okay with me spending all this extra time. It's taking me longer. I spoke more than I expected. So we're at the top of the hour. But if you want me to stop for a bit because you need to leave and show you the early bird bonuses, I can do that. Otherwise, I will just keep forging on with the rest of the examples. There's, I think, one more in here. And no, the last ones in here that I'm going to show you are just some more ways to use ChatGPT beyond what I've shown you. So I showed you the basic ways, which was the title and subtitle, examples, replacing examples with something that fits more your audience, rewriting some sections more in your style or tone, or explain it in a different way to your audience, as well as some real world scenarios, real life scenarios. They're hypothetical. They're not real in the sense that people are actually, you're quoting people who do that. That's pretty much impossible to do. And you don't want to do that anyway. You want hypothetical ones. But now there are some other ways also that you can use ChatGPT to kind of go to the next level. And here are just some ideas. So you can develop additional resources. I mentioned this at the beginning as well of the training, like an FAQ or a glossary. You could do worksheets or tips lists or resource lists, things like that. Anything that could add on to the course as a little bonus that'll help your audience enhance their learning. You can also generate marketing material like social media and emails. Some of that can be a little more difficult than others. I showed you how easy it was at the beginning to generate social media posts. So that's extremely easy to do. Sales page copy and emails is tougher and needs a lot more guidance. So for something like that, you're going to want to ask it exactly what it needs to know, and you will need to give it very specifics about the audience, the benefits of the course, the feature of the course, any guarantees, testimonials, all sorts of different things that you would want on your sales page. But it can really help with that. And in our course, we give you some sample sales page copy. So you could use portions of that as the basis to get ideas. And you can also create ideas for images. I'll show you an example of that. That's a whole different specialty that requires different types of prompting than the text prompting I've shown you. So there are examples and training out there. I recommended an AI Images for Profit club you can join that has training on it by Mariana Stevenson. So if you want that information, I can share that too, but I'll show you one example. So let's look at those couple ones. So here's a prompt for an FAQ. You can ask it to create a list of frequently asked questions about local marketing that my target audience, remember it needs to know who the target audience is, they might ask, along with concise, informative answers. So when I did that, I got this. So what is local marketing? Why is local marketing important for life coaches? How can I identify my local target market? What are effective local marketing strategies? All different things that could be really helpful as an FAQ, as an extra bonus. It could be if you set everything up on an online course platform, this could be one of the bonus resources that you have in there. It could be, you could use portions of it on your sales page even without giving away all the details. Now, in a sales page, I wouldn't add things like how do I measure the success of my local marketing, but I might want to put in Why is local marketing important? What is it? And things like that. And if it's for a sales page, you would want to tell ChatGPT that it's for a sales page. So I said also add 5 more on the topics of local partnerships, loyalty programs, and flash sales, because I know those are in the course. And if I'm using the FAQ as a bonus, I want to have those in there too. So again, remember, you're the one doing the thinking. You're the one doing the guidance on this. So tell it what you need. Be the expert on there. And it gave me more. How do I promote a flash sale? Should life coaches implement loyalty programs? What are the benefits of local partnerships? All different things that are really helpful. But read through it, make sure it's correct. You may not like the answers. And then you would go and copy that again into your Word document, into your Google Docs, so you can go through and edit it later. And if you don't like it, you don't like the ones it created, ask it for 10 more, and you can keep going. Let's talk about that image. So going back to my slides. So that was an example of an FAQ. Images. Like I said, this is also a whole different area. I happen to have the hardest time on that because I'm a person who deals more with text. I know what I like, but I can't necessarily visualize what I want to be able to give it the right instructions. And you do need to give it clear instructions that are very specific. It won't know, for instance, it may not know what a life coach is. So for me to tell it to do a picture of a life coach, it may have, who knows what I'd come up with. But you can do other specific things, like say it's a blog post banner, but you want to know what your size is for your website. You can tell it the title and topic that you want the post for, so it can pull from that because it has that kind of context. And then specifics, I want 1140 by 300, no text. I want shades of blue because that's my website. I want to make sure it's a smiling woman with dark hair and brown eyes holding a magnifying glass, because I thought, okay, having her pinpoint, the blog post I'm going to show you that it was for was on pinpointing your local ideal customer. So I said, holding a magnifying glass, looking through it at a diverse group of adults in a neighborhood setting in a realistic photo style. So I had a little bit of trouble with it, but let's see what it came up with. And again, this was for a blog post in the course materials for local marketing. I mentioned before that there's the main course that comes with student materials, instructor materials, and sales page copy. And then the lead generation or lead magnet funnel for promoting a course is in a separate pack on the upsell page. So you'll see it's a 5-day local marketing scorecard challenge kit, and it comes with some bonus blog posts in there. So I took one of those blog posts that's on promoting your local, not promoting your local. I took a blog post that is on, let's open it up. It's on pinpointing your local customer base. So that's the one I took. And I went over to ChatGPT and I said, I also have some blog posts on local marketing that need images. Suggest a blog post banner, image for my blog post on pinpointing your local customer base. Follow these guidelines. So initially I didn't give it enough direction and it came up with this. I did say no text, but it put in text anyway. So I wasn't happy with that, and I gave it more directions and included that information about, again, said no text, the smiling woman holding the magnifying glass, and I got this, so she's not actually looking at the audience. Still not crazy about it. So I tried it again with laying out all the details, all the guidelines in one request, and I came up with this, which is definitely better. You know, I could potentially use that. I'm not crazy about that face right in the middle, so big. So I tried again to make the woman smaller, have her on the left side of the image, looking through the magnifying glass, and a diverse group of people. It just still didn't work. And that's just me. I just can't seem to get that right with the images. Hopefully you guys can do a better job, but it's not terrible. And what you can then do is take this, whatever image you come out with, and put it over into Canva and add text to it. So since I don't like that face being so big, maybe I would take it into Canva and make the whole thing smaller and put it on one side of an image with text on the other. So you could play with that. I've tried generating these in Canva and Canva's AI, and I just can't seem to get good results. So images, in some ways, it's easier still to just go into, say, Canva. If you have a paid Canva account, use their pro ones that are stock photos and just work it from there, use their templates. And as you practice with the image generation, maybe you'll get better. I find at this point, it's not a good use of my time to do that. So heading back over to my slides. I showed you that. And that wraps up the examples. Let's talk about the new course and show you those bonuses as well. So I said we're doing our launch. I hope that whole training was really helpful for you and you got some good ideas on how to customize. You saw some of the examples I used from our new course. It is on launch special, which is the lowest price we ever do, which is 62% off. And there are those two add-ons, the lead generation pack, which is a 5-day challenge, and a student engagement pack or group activities pack, which has quizzes and group activities. And if you're on the main sales page, I said that I did this long video which has a peek inside the course and the add-on options. I will break out the sections in there where I did the whole description of the challenge and the group activities, because I added a lot of tips in there. And the challenge kit may be familiar to you. It comes with everything with daily emails and slideshow and fill in the blanks template for your opt-in pages, blog posts, and other things. So you can look at that. You can run a challenge to attract people to your course and build your list. And it is a local marketing scorecard challenge. And then the new type of upgrade pack are these course quizzes and group activities. So there's module quizzes that you could put at the end of each module or use as discussion questions. And then the second thing is a case study, which makes a really good group interactive activity you can do with a group. And then there's also this mini workshop we put together, a local online review workshop, which I really love. It can be run as a lead magnet, also as a bonus to your course, something maybe that only people who sign up at a certain time get, and you run it live, because it comes with, I think, 10 different types of online reviews put on little individual pages or scenario cards, as we call them, scenarios. So you can have people work on them individually in pairs and groups and draft responses to different types of online reviews, negative, positive, all different types. So definitely grab those two upsells. And in the meantime, I know that you want to see the bonuses. So let me show you. On the sales page, there's a description of them, but let me actually open them. There's a ton of information here, so I'm not going to go through everything. You can always pop me questions through email or write in the chat here. So there's two bonuses. There's the local content idea bank, and there's a 90-day community engagement calendar. So these are both things that could easily be paid, even though I didn't put an exact value on them, but I will open them up for you. So bonuses. All right, so the idea bank first comes in Canva and a Word document. In the Word document, you'll see that it is, how many pages is this? A bunch of pages. I think it's 8 pages, and they're all different ideas for local content, for local marketing. So blog post topics, tips for how you would use them, examples, localized social media content, local promotional campaigns, all types of content ideas. So this is a great bonus again for your course, and you can customize it to fit your audience. So okay, we talked about ways to customize it with ChatGPT, all the different examples. So this is another thing you could do, but at least it's laid out, the format's laid out, the initial examples and ideas are there. And it comes in Canva as well. If I show you the Canva version, go back. So it's always nice. People love having this in Canva, or at least our customers like having it in Canva because you can make it look really pretty. And what you'll have is use template. So I have edit because I'm already logged in, but you would use the template for a new design. It'll open it up in Canva, and then you can just change things however you want and save it as a PDF that you can give as that bonus. So you would just change your colors. I have a tutorial on the website in our blog about how to customize things in Canva. So if you need directions like that, just head over to our blog. And then the other thing with the calendar I want to show you, so it's really meaty. It is a 90-day community engagement calendar. And again, it's in Canva, so I'll open that up. And again, I need to press use template. And you'll see this is, it's loading. It is, I think, 56 pages. You can change any icons, designs. Of course, you're going to change your logo. And there's some instructions. And then there's an overview. This is all about planning out the community engagement activities that your local marketers would do over the next 3 months. And then you could copy and repeat this and give them new ones. So there's instructions for each. There's activity ideas in here, all sorts of activity ideas. I think I see 20 of them. And then they plan out which ones to use. And then they start actually planning out their calendar at a high level and then at a more detailed level. So they have which ones they're going to do, and they plan out for each event their goal, their metrics, and then an actual activity breakdown. So this is really great for that community engagement, which for any local marketer is a really top high converting way to get visibility and attract new leads. So those are the bonuses for local marketing for our launch, but you'll need to get that before December 13th. Otherwise, you will just head over to this URL, which I can also show you over here. I'm going to find my little banner. And there it is. All right, so that is the URL you want to go to, contentsparks.com/local marketing to get that, to get our course that was just launched and to get the early bird bonuses. So I'm glad that was helpful to everyone. Head over to contentsparks.com/local marketing. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Make sure you grab it while the price is as low as possible. And if you have any questions around using ChatGPT to customize your course, let me know. Pop them into the chat. If you're a customer, pop them into the Facebook community or insiders community, because I know there are a lot of people who want to learn from you also. A lot of other people who have been using it even more than I have, much more than I have, who have other insights on how to use it, people that have used more of the images, so they'll have tips as well. And we also have our Facebook community, which is for everyone. So you can also ask questions there. So if you're not already a customer, you can always go into that community also. And I'll look out for those questions. All right. Glad that was helpful. Any last comments? Nope. That is it. All right. Take care, everybody, and look forward to seeing what you do with the course or any of your other courses from Content Sparks. Bye now.